It has been an iffy day of trade today, very volatile for the index. Started off very lower and then ended up marginally in the red. But if you look at the broader end of the market, there was extreme carnage there, particularly in the PSU lot and the commodity names. So that was the talking point. Before I tell you about what happened in the markets per se, tell you what's going to come on the show. Andrew Holland, CEO, Investment Advisory at Ambit, will also be joined by Neeraj Dewan of Quantum. So he'll give us his fundamental perspective. And to take us through the technicals, we will have Sandeep Wagle of Aptar. Gentlemen, all of you, thanks so much for joining me today and giving us that perspective. Andrew, come to you first. Are you a bit disappointed with what happened in the budget, precious little done to revive the growth cycle? And do you think the market is actually showing that disappointment in how it is reacting to the post-budget period?
Yeah, I think I am actually. I mean, it was kind of not too hot, not too cold, but certainly not right, to kind of glean any kind of growth hopes, from what the finance minister delivered. Maybe our expectations were too high, certainly, before the budget. Watching, your channels, many commentators were, I think, expecting a little bit too much, and you just get disappointed when that doesn't happen. Sadly, now we kind of go into what's happening globally. And the fear is, given what's happening in the US, there's a property rate hike or capital gains tax in China, and there's the ongoing problems in Italy. If there's a risk of trade, then obviously the risk for India is that, FIIs might start to do some selling, and that would be mainly the large caps, which will take the most of that heat, and therefore that's probably why we're seeing the markets come down. And that would exacerbate itself in many ways in terms of our thoughts would quickly go towards the currency and then the current account deficit. So very short term, it's the negatives are certainly outweighing the positives, because unless now the finance minister or the government start to introduce a slew of new reforms to keep the momentum going, then really we're not looking at a great prospect. And earnings growth, although been hit by obviously the surcharge on corporate tax. So we could see some more downgrades coming, and I don't think that's what the market was hoping for or expecting when we came into 2013.
Okay, that's the large cap picture and the macro one as well. Neeraj, thanks for joining in as well. I think the bigger pain, Neeraj, is what's really happening to the mid-cap end of the market, and some of the weaker hands, the way they have kept on getting weaker. Actually, even some of the large caps like JP Associates have faced that. But the pain in the mid-caps, do you think that will last for a bit longer? And could there be more price damage in some of the weaker hands?
Yeah, good evening. I think the pain that is coming in the mid-caps started before the budget itself. We saw good selling happening in the mid-cap and the small-cap space even before the budget. And it started, the ferocity increased after the budget was announced. I think where people had stopped to look at the budget and had too many expectations on the budget with this kind of a scenario. I think we were really too optimistic of the budget, which didn't come through. So I think that is what is happening in the market. Because that ferocity of the mid-cap fall and the small-cap fall, a lot of even leverage positions also start getting liquidated. The people who must have used stocks to leverage themselves, draw some funds, even that selling is also adding to the overall selling that is happening in the markets. So I think that it's a vicious cycle. The selling needs to stop and things needs to stabilize. Even the global cues are not very encouraging to give us that kind of an environment. I think once the environment becomes a little better and the mid-cap selling stops somewhere, and then there people realize what kind of values you're getting stocks at, because across mid-cap there is tremendous value. The kind of fall you've seen, you can't put all eggs in one basket and say that all the mid-caps which have fallen are not of good quality. There will be some good quality names also which have corrected along with the carnage in the mid-cap. So you are getting opportunities, but I think better we need to wait and see where the selling stops and market stabilizes.
Sandeep, and that's the point. We'll talk about mid-caps in a bit. Some large caps which corrected, and wondering what you would do with some of these stocks. There are commodity names like Hindalco and JSPL, and actually I'll possibly even add an ACC and Ambuja there. What do you do with some of these stocks?
Neeraj, I would say that there is some more trading downside, maybe to the tune of 3 to 4 to 5%. But at that level, I would want to wait and watch as to how they behave. And the basic trend is down, so there is no question of picking them up or buying them up or do bottom fishing. I would want to wait and watch the pattern that is developing. I believe that the 5550 is where the Nifty will find its bottom, and nearer that, yes, I would be tempted to go long as a delivery, as a position for a few months. Even the metal space would bounce back strongly, but at the level of 5500, 5550 on the Nifty, which is probably a couple of percent, 2, 3, 4% down from the current levels.
And Andrew, I would want to come to you. A point that Neeraj was just making about how some of the mid caps have gotten derated. I mean, the real estate names like HDIL, DB Realty, EduComp, Core Evron from the education space, they have been battered out of shape. I mean, what happens here? It's looking extremely shaky for these stocks.
Yeah, it's just been horrible. It's difficult to comment on some of the stocks you've mentioned because you don't know the reasons really behind the big falls. Let's hope SEBI's inquiry throws some light on that. Because some of these stocks have, you feel that there's value, but you're just not sure why the share price has fallen so significantly. So, fortunately we kept to the large caps and, been very, very selective as we always are in our mid-cap selections. But I think this remains the kind of warning for getting too excited about markets and then dipping below the large caps to try and get extra alpha. And sometimes it's just very painful, very, very painful.
Neeraj, the other basket which corrected a little bit today were some of the auto names, and the monthly sales numbers haven't been the best. Say maybe a Maruti which did okay, or maybe an M&M. What do you do with the two-wheelers in particular, the likes of Hero, Bajaj Auto, when the managements have been candid enough to say things don't improve in a hurry?
Yeah, actually, we're not too bullish on the two-wheeler segment. Like even the companies are acknowledging the fact that things will take time to improve. And I think four-wheelers look a better space to be in right now. So I'll rather not invest in two-wheeler stocks, even with small kind of correction that we're seeing right now, and go for four-wheeler stocks where I feel that right mix of commercial and passenger vehicle. Because we are seeing a lot of interest rates sensitive improving going ahead with the RBI getting into action in the next RBI policy meet and the meet after that. So I think keeping that in mind, I would rather go for good four-wheeler stock company which has the right mix of passenger as well as commercial vehicle. Maybe Tata Motors, for that matter, could be one company where we can look investing into.
What explains the nervousness, Neeraj, in some of the PSU names today, or for that matter over the last 2 days, but particularly in today's session, the MMTCs, IFCIs, you name it, across the board, everything fell.
I think a couple of them which OFS is likely to happen, where there might be some panic regarding what kind of price it will happen at. It might happen at a discount. So that can be one worrying factor which was there in a couple of stocks. But other stocks as such, there was no reason which I could think of why they corrected so much today.
Fair call. Sandeep, what do you do with some of these PSU names? I won't ask you to bet on an NHPC. That's a difficult one. But MMTC, IFCI, National Fertilizers, I mean, pick up anything and they fell. How do the charts look here?
Well, I've been tracking IFCI very closely, and even at this level and on a little bit of a bounce back, I would sell it. I mean, I see IFCI testing levels of 22, 23, currently at 27. I would sell it on a rise up to 28, 29, keep a stop loss about 30.50, and I would talk of a target of 2021.
Neeraj, does RIL or any of the other oil and gas stocks present an opportunity? I mean, multiple things happening, diesel prices, they are being allowed to raise. RIL has gotten some clearance of some gas blocks, and we hear some favorable comments coming in from the CAG side or the oil ministry side as well. Is there an investment case in any of the oil and gas stocks?
Yes, definitely. If someone has a perspective of 1 year, 18 months from here, I think these are opportunities which needs to be cashed in. Oil and gas space as a whole, whether it's Reliance Industries or the oil marketing companies, where also a lot of good has already been done by the government, and slowly and steadily will start reflecting the kind of benefit they'll get with the partial deregulation of diesel and the kind of steps they are taking to increase the prices. One price happened this weekend also. I think oil and gas space as a whole looks very interesting, and Reliance for that matter, I think there are a lot of positives which are there in Reliance that can happen in the next 1 year, whether it's oil, whether it's gas pricing, whether it's shale gas investments, I think, and the 4G in caching which they can do. I think a lot of factors are there which will happen in Reliance in the next 1 year. So I would be an investor in Reliance at all depths.